The night wind cut across the stone balcony like a blade. Torches shivered. Banners slapped against their poles. And in the middle of the stormlit courtyard, Lena stood frozen. Her hands trembled around the silver staff she wasn't supposed to carry. Across the courtyard, a giant training dummy lay shattered, split clean down the center as if lightning had struck it. Except no lightning had touched it. Lena had done it. And the guards were staring. Their eyes were wide, their whispers sharp. Some stepped back as if she were dangerous. Others leaned in, curious, unsure. The princess who barely spoke, the princess who avoided crowds, had dropped a weapons training field to total silence. Her breath hitched. She wanted to run. She wanted to disappear behind the tall marble pillars and hide just like she always did. But she couldn't move. Her heart pounded fast, too fast. Her vision flickered. Voices swirled in her ears. She lost control. That wasn't normal. Should we call the Mage Council? The world swayed around her like a ship on storm water. Then she heard a voice. A steady one. A human one. Hey, it's okay, just breathe. Lena turned her head. Max walked toward her calm, relaxed, no fear in his eyes. He wasn't dressed like the guards. No metal armor. Just a simple travel coat, dusty at the hem, and the small wooden charm he always kept tied around his wrist. Of all the knights, mages, and nobles, he was the only human in the whole palace. And somehow, the only one who didn't look scared of her. Max reached her side slowly, giving her space like he was approaching a frightened bird. "You didn't hurt anyone," he said softly. "You just surprised them." "I didn't mean to," she whispered. Her voice barely rose above the wind. "I know." The courtyard murmurs softened as he stood next to her. Not because they stopped judging her, many still did, but because Max held himself with the kind of confidence that made people pause. Lena lowered the silver staff. Her fingers were stiff from the cold and from fear. "Why can't I control it?" she murmured. Max didn't answer right away. He scanned the cracked stones around them, the smoke like threads of magic drifting off the damaged dummy. He never tried to grab her staff or push it down. He just stayed next to her, letting her chest rise and fall until her shaking stopped. "You've been keeping your power locked inside," he said quietly. "Sometimes things explode when you hold them too tight." Her eyes widened. No mage had ever explained it like that. Before she could respond, one of the royal instructors marched toward them. His robes dragged across the ground, stiff with gold embroidery. His thin mouth pressed into a sharp line. "Princess Lena," he said sternly, "you are forbidden from using force magic outside guided sessions. This incident will be reported." Lena's shoulders curled inward. I'm sorry." "Sorry won't repair the damage." Max stepped forward. She didn't aim at anyone, and that dummy was falling apart already. The instructor glared at him. "The princess does not need your defense, human." Lena winced. Max kept his jaw tight but didn't step back. The instructor turned away without waiting for an answer. The guards followed him out, their whispers trailing behind like falling leaves. Silence returned. Lena stared at the broken dummy. A small part of her chest ached, not because of the damage she caused, but because of how quickly people pulled away from her. Max let out a breath. "You okay?" "No," she swallowed, "but thank you." He smiled faintly. "Any time." The wind eased, the torches steadied. Lena looked across the courtyard. The palace walls rose like dark mountains. Beyond them, lanterns glowed over the evening market, and she could almost hear the distant chatter of people living simple lives, lives without power they feared or traditions they couldn't meet. "I don't belong here," she whispered. Max didn't dismiss it. He didn't rush to fix her feelings. He just stood beside her, watching the same distant lights. "Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but you're here right now, and you're trying." She blinked, trying. Trying to be better, trying to understand yourself. That already puts you ahead of half the nobles in this place. A tiny laugh escaped her, not loud, more like warm air slipping between her lips. but it was real. Max noticed, and his smile widened. As they walked slowly back toward the inner halls, neither spoke, yet the quiet between them felt gentle. Inside, the palace corridors glowed with soft blue lanterns. Servants hurried with laundry. Pages carried scrolls. Two elderly cooks whispered about the harvest shortage in the north, another worry added to the world. Lena listened to their voices, feeling the weight of her kingdom's problems resting on every shadowed corner. Max noticed her frown. You thinking about the training or the kingdom? Both, she admitted. Everything always feels big. You don't have to carry all of it today, he said. When they reached her chamber doors, she paused. Max, why did you come into the courtyard? Everyone else stepped back. Because you looked scared, he said simply, and I know what that feels like. Her breath caught. No one had ever said that to her. Not like that. And for the first time that night, her heart didn't feel so heavy. The next morning arrived soft and cold. Mist rolled over the palace gardens, settling on the roses like silver dust. Birds hopped along the stone edges of the fountains, shaking off droplets of dew. Princess Lena stepped outside quietly. She kept her cloak wrapped tight around her shoulders, as if trying to make herself smaller. Her shoes barely made a sound as she walked the path toward the eastern terrace. She always came here early, before the court woke, before the training fields filled with noise, before anyone could judge the way her hands trembled when someone looked at her too long. But today, someone was already there. A lone figure sat on the edge of the terrace railing, legs dangling over a 30-foot drop to the lower gardens. Max. He wasn't supposed to be there, but somehow this felt like exactly the place he would choose. He turned his head as soon as he heard her footsteps. Morning. Lena froze. Why you're awake early? He shrugged, couldn't sleep, thought the sunrise might help. She hesitated before stepping forward. Do humans not sleep well in the palace? He chuckled softly. Some do. I guess I'm still getting used to being surrounded by so many rules. Lena gave a small nod. She knew that feeling too well. The light over the horizon shifted from pale blue to soft gold. Sunbeams stretched across the terrace floor, warming the stones beneath their feet. For a moment, neither spoke. The quiet felt natural, like a blanket over both of them. Max broke it first. About yesterday, you don't have to pretend it didn't happen. Lena's fingers closed around her cloak. Everyone saw, they think I'm dangerous. Some do, he admitted. Some don't, and some are just scared of anything they don't understand. She looked down at the gardens below. I didn't grow up like the other princesses. I never learned the way magic is supposed to be used. I never got the confidence lessons or the speeches about royal poise. I just stayed inside. Max tilted his head. Why? Her throat tightened. Because when I was little, my powers reacted to my emotions. If I got scared, things broke. If I felt sad, lights flickered. If I got angry. She swallowed, the whole hall shook. Max didn't move. He didn't interrupt, he simply listened. Lena continued in a quieter voice. So the council said it was safer if I stayed out of sight, less stress, less chance of making mistakes. And what about now? I'm supposed to be better, she laughed weakly, but I feel the same inside. Max rested his elbows on his knees. You know, when I first came here, the guards didn't trust me either. Her eyes widened. You. Oh yeah, I heard everything. Humans can't use magic. Humans don't understand royal customs. Humans are too emotional. He rolled his eyes. Pretty ironic, considering the nobles here cry more than I do. Lena let out another soft laugh, small but real. Max smiled at the sound. They just didn't know me yet, and people fear what they don't know. Lena touched the edge of the railing. She could feel warmth rising in her chest. A gentle heat, not the wild storm that had burst through her yesterday. What did you do to make them trust you? I didn't force it, I just kept showing up, he said. One day at a time, doing little things, fixing small problems, helping where I could. Helping? Yeah, he shrugged. Sometimes trust grows slow. Lena stared at him. His answer wasn't grand or heroic. It was simple, so simple it made something inside her shift. She sat beside him on the railing, carefully, keeping a safe distance from the drop. Her feet barely brushed the stone under her cloak. "Max," she said, "do you think someone like me could learn courage?" He turned his head. "You already have it." She blinked quickly. "No, You faced a courtyard full of people last night," he said. "You stayed even when you wanted to run. That's courage." Her breath shook just slightly. No one had ever called her courageous before. A shout echoed from the far end of the terrace. 2 pages sprinted across the garden path, waving scrolls in the air. "Princess Lena," one called breathlessly. "The council requests your presence at the inner chamber." Lena stiffened. "Now." "Yes, Your Highness." Max glanced at her carefully. "You want me to walk with you?" She hesitated. Her heart thudded softly in her chest, nervous but not terrified. "Yes," she said at last, "please." As they walked toward the council chamber, the palace around them slowly woke. Servants opened windows. Guards changed shifts. In the distance, a group of young apprentices practiced basic spells, their tiny sparks flickering like fireflies. Life moved around her, full of noise and color. But this time, Lena didn't feel quite so alone. Max walked beside her with steady steps. And somewhere deep inside her, her fear loosened just a little. The council chamber was colder than the terrace. Stone walls rose high, echoing every footstep. Torches flickered along the walls, casting long shadows over the gold-trimmed banners. The air smelled faintly of old parchment and candle wax. Princess Lena hesitated at the doorway. Her hands hovered near her cloak, fingers curling nervously. Around the massive circular table, nobles, instructors, and council mages sat like statues. Eyes followed her as she stepped inside. "Princess Lena," said Master, the oldest mage in the council, his voice dry like rustling leaves. "We must discuss last night's incident." Lena swallowed. She could feel her heartbeat rising, a drum echoing in her ears. Max stayed close, just outside the circle of council attention, leaning against the wall. His presence was steady, a silent shield she hadn't realized she needed. "We cannot have uncontrolled power in the palace," continued, eyes narrowing. "Even with good intentions, you could have caused serious harm. We are concerned." The princess nodded. "I understand." Her voice was quiet, trembling, but audible. She looked down at the hem of her cloak, willing herself not to shrink into the floor. Another mage spoke, younger this time. "It's true, Princess Lena, but perhaps we have overlooked your potential. Your talent is rare, your magic." She gestured to the courtyard. "It could be remarkable if guided." The council murmured. Some frowned, some whispered. Lena's stomach twisted. Praise felt strange and dangerous, as if the words could turn to fire in her mouth. His voice cut through. "Rare or not, control is essential. That is why we propose the hidden trials." The room fell silent. Even the young mage stopped mid-gesture. "What trials?" Lena asked. Her voice barely carried. "They are designed to test a mage's self-control, courage, and understanding of the magical currents," explained. "Not just skill, Princess, but character. You must succeed, or your training will be restricted." She felt the room tilt slightly, as if the walls themselves were watching. Her throat constricted. Max stepped closer, just behind her. "It's not punishment," he whispered. "It's a chance to learn." "I don't know if I can," she murmured, eyes on the polished stone floor. Max crouched slightly, level with her. "Do you remember the courtyard last night?" "Yes, and the shame," she said. "Everyone watching." "And yet you stayed," Max reminded her. "You didn't run, that's why you can do this, one step at a time." Lena drew a shaky breath. She could feel the heat rising in her chest again, the same heat from the terrace this morning, warmer now, not terrifying. Courage, she realized, was not the absence of fear, but moving forward despite it. Continued, ignoring her quiet thoughts. "The hidden trials will begin tomorrow. You will face physical challenges, mental puzzles, and tests of emotional control. Only the most disciplined will succeed." Lena glanced at Max. His expression didn't waver. No scolding, no criticism, just unwavering faith, somehow that made the idea less daunting. Later, when the council meeting ended, Lena and Max walked back through the palace corridors. The servants and pages bustled around them. The smell of fresh bread from the kitchens reached them, blending with the scent of stone and lantern smoke. "I don't know what to expect," Lena admitted. "Neither do I," Max said, "but you don't have to face it alone." She paused. "I've never had anyone say that to me before." Max shrugged, looking slightly embarrassed. "Well, someone should." A faint laugh escaped her. Not loud, just a whisper, but it was real. "Tomorrow," she said, "I have to be brave." "You already are," he said. "You just don't know it yet." As they reached her chambers, Lena lingered at the door. Her reflection in the polished bronze handle caught her eye, pale skin, wide eyes, and hair that caught the last golden rays of the sun. She saw herself as she often did, small, hesitant, unsure. And yet there was something new, a spark tiny but steady behind her eyes. That night she barely slept. Her dreams were filled with corridors stretching endlessly, magic sparks flying and shadows whispering her fears back to her. Yet beneath all the fear, a quiet voice whispered, "You can do this. One step, one breath, one choice." By dawn, she felt the weight of her kingdom settle gently on her shoulders, not heavy enough to crush her, but enough to remind her she had work to do. She wrapped her cloak tight, took her staff, and walked to the terrace. Max was already there. "Morning," he said with a grin. "Ready for the first day of whatever that council wants." She nodded, "I think so." For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel alone in facing the impossible. And the palace around them, vast and old, full of history and secrets, waited silently. Because tomorrow, everything would change. The first rays of sunlight cut through the palace gates like golden knives, painting the training grounds in a warm glow. Mist curled around the edges of the gardens, clinging to the stone walkways. Birds flitted from tree to tree, calling to each other, their voices fragile against the quiet roar of the morning. Princess Lena stood at the edge of the field, staff in hand, heart hammering. The hidden trials were not a suggestion. They were real, and the entire court had gathered to witness. Her pulse raced faster than the hooves of the ceremonial horses that lined the gates. The first trial was simple in theory, a demonstration of control. Mages would manipulate objects with their magic, keeping multiple floating spheres spinning in harmony. Failure meant not just embarrassment, but serious scrutiny from the council. Lena swallowed. She could feel her hands trembling. The air smelled faintly of rain on stone. Her vision flickered with the memory of last night, the shattered dummy, the wide eyes of the guards, Max's calm presence beside her. Max stepped quietly to her side, offering a reassuring smile. "One breath," he whispered. "You've done harder things than this." She nodded, though doubt still clutched at her chest. "Princess Lena's voice echoed from the front of the field. "Begin." The spheres hovered in the air, pale and shimmering like captured moonlight. Around them, the courtiers whispered. The council watched silently, their expressions unreadable. Lena raised her staff. Her fingers were cold, sweat slicking the wood. She whispered the incantation under her breath, the soft, melodic rhythm she had practiced alone for years. The spheres wobbled. One tipped sideways, a sharp gasp ran through the crowd. Lena's chest tightened. She gritted her teeth, forcing her mind to calm. Control, control, control. The spheres steadied, they floated. She smiled just slightly. And then one slipped. Time slowed. Her stomach dropped. All the eyes in the courtyard felt like burning coals. The sphere tumbled toward the edge of the platform, panic clawed at her chest. Max stepped forward, not too close, just enough to let her feel he was there. "Breathe," he said softly. "Let it flow, don't fight it." Lena closed her eyes. She could hear the wind in the banners, the rustle of leaves, the soft murmur of a distant fountain. She focused not on failure, not on judgment, not on fear, only on the spheres. Slowly, carefully, the falling sphere righted itself. The others responded, spinning in perfect rhythm. Lena's chest heaved. Her hands were steady now. A murmur ran through the crowd, excitement, disbelief, awe. She opened her eyes. The spheres shimmered in perfect harmony above the field. His face remained stern, but his eyes flickered with a hint of approval. "You have control," he said, voice low but firm. "Not perfect, not complete, but enough to move forward." Lena lowered her staff, trembling but smiling. Her knees nearly gave way, but she held herself upright. Max exhaled quietly, relief evident in the subtle sag of his shoulders. "See," he said, "told you." Her gaze shifted to him. I didn't think I could." "You already did," he said. "You just needed to see it yourself." The second part of the trial involved mental focus, puzzles that tested memory, perception, and strategy. Lena had to navigate a labyrinth of mirrors, each reflecting not just her own image, but versions of herself she didn't like. Fearful, shy, uncertain Lena stared back at her from every angle. Her heart wanted to turn away, but Max walked at the edge of the maze, his presence steady, guiding her without pushing. "Remember," he whispered when she faltered, "the mirror only shows what you think. You are stronger than that." Step by careful step, Lena moved through the maze. Each mirror seemed to challenge her. "You're too weak. You'll fail." She clenched her jaw. She remembered the courtyard, the spheres, Max's calm voice beside her. And finally, the exit appeared. Warm sunlight spilled into her face. She stepped out, blinking against the light. The courtiers murmured again. Some clapped softly, unsure of protocol. Others whispered, excitement and astonishment mixing in their tones. For the first time, Lena felt something unfamiliar, pride. Not arrogance, not bravado, pure steady pride. Max met her at the edge of the field. "You did it," he said simply. "I did," she whispered, still catching her breath. He grinned, "And you didn't run once." She laughed softly, a sound like sunlight on water. And somewhere deep in her chest, she felt courage, not just a spark, but the first real flicker of fire. His eyes lingered on her, thoughtful. "The first trial is complete, and Princess Lena, you have begun to discover what makes a true mage and perhaps a true leader." Lena's gaze drifted past him, over the palace walls, the gardens, the distant mountains. The world was vast, and the trials were only beginning. But for the first time, she didn't feel small. She felt capable. And the palace, ancient, proud, and full of expectation, was starting to feel like hers, too. Evening fell over the palace with a quiet hum. Lanterns flickered along the corridors, casting long, wavering shadows on the stone walls. Servants hurried past with trays of food, pages shuffled scrolls, and the distant sound of the fountains created a steady, soothing rhythm. Yet for Princess Lena, the palace no longer felt entirely familiar. She walked slowly through the corridors, staff in hand, her cloak brushing the floor. Her mind replayed the day's trials, the spinning spheres, the mirrored labyrinth, the small spark of courage that had finally ignited inside her. She could feel it still, warm and stubborn, like a candle flickering against the wind. Max fell into step beside her without a word. His presence was comforting, silent, like a shield against the weight pressing down on her shoulders. "You're quiet," he observed, breaking the silence. "I'm thinking," Lena admitted, "about the trials, about the council, about everything." "Everything's a lot," Max said, "even for humans." Lena let out a soft laugh. "Even for humans." "Well," he said with a small grin, "I can be brave, but I don't have to hide from anyone like you've done. That's different. You have to keep yourself hidden from everyone all the time." She didn't answer immediately. The hallway stretched ahead, a winding path of shadows and glowing lanterns. The air smelled faintly of candle wax and stone, mixed with the faint metallic scent of the palace gates. Eventually, Lena spoke. "I've always felt trapped, like I had to hide or I'd break something or someone would get hurt." Max nodded slowly. "I think I understand, but hiding doesn't make fear go away. Facing it, even a little, that's what builds strength." She glanced at him, a small spark of gratitude in her eyes. "And you, why do you care so much?" He shrugged. "Because I've seen what happens when someone believes in you, even a little. You surprise yourself." The words lingered between them as they reached the edge of the gardens. The fountains glimmered in the moonlight, droplets catching the lantern glow like scattered stars. Lena paused, taking in the beauty around her, the twisting vines climbing the palace walls, the soft hum of insects in the night, the distant mountains etched against the horizon. "I never noticed it before," she said quietly. "The gardens, the palace, the world outside my windows." Max followed her gaze. "Most people only see what they're told to see. You're learning to notice." A sudden noise startled them. A shadow moved quickly behind one of the large hedges, a flicker of movement too fast to be human. Lena tensed, staff at the ready. Max instinctively stepped closer. "Stay calm," he whispered. A small figure emerged, a page, pale and trembling. Princess Lena," the boy gasped, holding a rolled scroll. I found this in the library. I think it's important." Lena took the scroll carefully, unrolling it. The parchment was old, edges frayed. Symbols she didn't recognize danced across the page, glowing faintly as if alive. "What is it?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. Max leaned over her shoulder. "Looks like some kind of magic script, maybe a hidden record." The page trembled in her hands. The symbols pulsed gently, almost as if they were breathing. Lena felt a shiver run down her spine, not fear but anticipation. "Where did you say you found this?" she asked the page. "In the restricted section," he stammered. I thought you should see it." Max's eyes narrowed. "Restricted sections aren't for casual browsing. This could be dangerous." Lena studied the symbols. She felt an odd connection, a pull she couldn't explain. The pulsing light seemed to echo the warmth in her chest, the spark of courage that had grown today. "I have to understand this," she whispered almost to herself. Max put a steady hand on her shoulder. "Then we'll do it together, whatever it is." She looked at him, the first real trust shining in her eyes. For the first time, she realized that she didn't have to face every shadow alone, not the council, not her fear, not even the secrets hidden in the palace. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "I'll start deciphering it. Whatever it is, I'll face it." Max nodded, one step at a time, just like today. The page off to deliver the scroll to a safe place. Lena held it close, feeling the strange warmth it carried. The garden was quiet again, but the night seemed heavier somehow, charged with hidden energy and secrets yet to be revealed. As they walked back toward the inner chambers, Lena felt something stirring inside her. Not just courage, not just fear faced and survived. Something larger, something unstoppable. And the palace, with all its rules, shadows, and traditions, had no idea the storm it had just awakened. Dawn broke with a silver haze over the palace. The gardens shimmered with dew, and the fountains reflected the pale sunlight like scattered jewels. Princess Lena sat cross-legged in her chambers, the mysterious scroll unrolled before her. Its symbols glowed faintly, pulsing with a rhythm she could almost feel in her chest. Max leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching silently. "You've been at it for hours," he said softly. "I have to," Lena whispered, tracing her finger over a line of symbols. I think it's connected to the magic inside me." Max stepped closer. "Then let's figure it out together." She nodded, the tiniest flicker of relief in her eyes. He didn't push, didn't rush her. He simply stayed, steady as the stone walls around them. Hours passed. The palace woke around them. Servants swept corridors, cooks clanged pans in the kitchens, pages ran errands with bundles of parchment. But Lena and Max remained in their bubble, focused on the glowing script. Gradually, the symbols began to make sense, not in words, but in rhythm. A melody of magic, an old language of energy. Lena's pulse quickened. She realized that the magic didn't just react to her fear or her anger. It responded to her courage, her intent, and her willingness to act. Max noticed her eyes lighting up. "You're seeing it," he said quietly. "Yes," she breathed. I think I can control it better now. The council, the trials, I can do more than I thought." The sound of footsteps in the corridor interrupted her focus. Lena's heart leapt. The palace had been quiet. Now someone was coming. A figure appeared in the doorway, the young mage who had spoken for her in the council. Her robes swirled as she entered, eyes wide with curiosity and concern. "Princess Lena," said, bowing slightly, I heard you've been studying the scroll. Are you feeling well? Lena hesitated. I think I understand a little, but it's strange, powerful, and old. Nodded, that scroll hasn't been touched in centuries. It belonged to the founders of this kingdom. They wrote it to guide young mages to awaken hidden potential. If you're learning from it, you could surpass what anyone expects. Lena's chest tightened. I don't know if I can. Max's hand brushed hers lightly. You can, you already have. Smiled faintly. It's not just about magic, Princess. It's about courage, wisdom, and heart. The scroll reveals what's inside you, not just your power, but who you are. Lena's eyes flickered toward the scroll, then to Max. She felt a strange warmth building in her chest, like sunlight trapped in her ribs. She realized that courage wasn't something you waited for. It was something you made piece by piece, step by step. Suddenly, the scroll pulsed brighter, sending a ripple through the room. The symbols rearranged themselves, forming a path of glowing lines across the floor. What is it doing? Lena whispered. Max crouched beside her. It's showing you something, a path, maybe the next trial, maybe a choice. His eyes widened. No one has ever activated it like that, only those with rare courage and intent. Princess Lena, you. I don't know what I am yet, Lena said softly, but she felt it, strength, courage, fire. She took a deep breath, gripping her staff tightly. Then we follow it, Max said, his voice steady, reassuring. One step at a time. They rose, and the scroll's glowing lines stretched before them like a road of light. Every instinct in her whispered to hesitate, to stay safe. But Lena didn't step back. She stepped forward, and with Max by her side, she felt the first real thrill of facing the unknown, of stepping into something far greater than herself. The palace seemed to hold its breath as she moved, shadows lengthening and lanterns flickering in response to her presence. Somewhere deep in the stone walls, old secrets stirred. Whispers long forgotten began to echo. The princess who had once hidden in corners, terrified of her own power, now walked forward with quiet determination. And the world, old, grand, and full of hidden magic, waited for her next move. The corridor of light stretched endlessly before Princess Lena, each glowing line from the ancient scroll guiding her steps. The walls seemed to hum with energy, as if the palace itself had awakened to witness her journey. Max walked beside her, silent but unwavering, a quiet anchor in the shifting magic. She tightened her grip on the staff, feeling the pulse of power flow through her fingers. Every step made her heart hammer faster, not from fear, but from the thrill of moving forward. She had faced the courtyard, the mirrored labyrinth, the judgment of the council, and the whispers of doubt within herself. Each challenge had left its mark, each success had fueled her courage. And now, this was the culmination. Ahead, the glowing path opened into a chamber she had never seen before. The ceiling arched high above, carved with ancient symbols that shimmered faintly in the light. In the center, a pool of water reflected the glow, rippling with energy. Lena felt the power in the air press against her chest, filling her with a strange mixture of fear and exhilaration. Is this the final trial? She asked softly. Max glanced at her. I don't know, but whatever it is, we face it together. She nodded, inhaling deeply. Her reflection shimmered in the water, pale skin, wide eyes, hair catching the golden glow of the magic. And behind it, something new. A quiet confidence, a spark of fire that hadn't been there before. The symbols around the chamber pulsed. Lena lifted her staff, letting her magic flow freely. The pool responded, ripples spreading outward, glowing lines forming shapes in the air, visions of past mages, battles fought, kingdoms defended. It was as if the chamber was showing her the weight of history, the power of those who had come before, and the potential that lay within her. I see it, Lena whispered. I see what I can do. Max put a hand lightly on her shoulder. Then show them, show yourself. She stepped closer to the pool. Her reflection shifted, merging with the glowing symbols. Her hands no longer trembled. She focused on the courage she had built, one step at a time, one breath at a time, one choice at a time. Magic surged through her, but it was controlled, precise, alive with intention. The chamber trembled, not with danger, but with power harnessed and tempered. Lena lifted the staff high. The light cascaded across the walls, a radiant wave that seemed to reach every corner of the palace. From the doorway, the council watched, eyes widened, mouths agape. Stern as ever, could not hide a flicker of astonishment. Even the young mage stared with awe. Lena's heart pounded, not from fear, but from triumph. She felt the spark in her chest ignite into a steady flame. This was not just magic. This was her courage, her choice, her strength. The pool shimmered one last time before settling into calm stillness. The glowing lines faded, leaving the chamber bathed in soft, warm light. Lena lowered her staff, chest heaving, a smile spreading across her face. "You did it," Max said quietly, pride shining in his eyes. I did," Lena whispered, barely believing it herself. "I'm stronger than I thought." Stepped forward slowly, nodding. "Princess Lena, you have not only passed the hidden trials, you have awakened something within yourself that even the founders would admire. Courage, strength, humanity." Lena's eyes widened. Humanity. The word rang in her ears like a song she had never sung aloud. Max's hand brushed hers gently, grounding her, reminding her that this strength was shared, nurtured, and real. Smiled, "And the scroll it has chosen well. You are ready." For the first time in her life, Lena felt truly seen. Not as a fragile princess, not as a shy girl hiding from the world, but as herself. A human, courageous and unstoppable, capable of magic and of heart. She looked at Max. "Thank you for not letting me run, for believing in me." He grinned, slightly awkward but full of warmth. "You didn't need me to carry you. You needed me to remind you that you already could." Lena laughed softly. The sound echoed through the chamber, bright and free. She lifted her staff once more, not to strike, but to embrace the magic flowing through her. Outside, the palace walls seemed to shimmer with a quiet approval, banners fluttering gently as if applauding. The night air carried a whisper through the corridors, a promise of adventure, of challenges yet to come, of a princess who had found her courage. And Lena walked forward, not hidden in shadows, not trembling with doubt, but standing tall, staff in hand, ready to face the world. For the first time, shyness could not stop her. She had discovered her strength, her humanity, and her courage. And nothing, not tradition, not fear, not doubt, would ever hold her back again.